What's up, man? How are you guys? Good to see you. What the whole thing about with the wire buck for us, at least, it always comes out to we're trying to come up with the design of a tank, right? So a lot of the times we're sitting there looking at the frame, and that's usually kind of going to lead a lot of which way we're going to go. So going from there, me and my bro, we used to actually back in the day, we used to do like a little cardboard piece and just sit there and kind of try to check out the different designs of what we're doing for the actual bike. And essentially what you're trying to do is when you're looking at a bike from the profile, you want to see what shape the tank is going to take from the two angles, right? So the first one has always been the side angle. So I just kind of did this quickly like that, coming up with what design you want to do and what you think is gonna kind of flow the best. And now you're looking at it from this angle right here, right? So that's your number one plane, you know. So the reason why we do this wire buck usually has always been one of the advantages is because you could always put your piece behind it and kind of see through it. That's kind of important for us, you know. Specifically when you're not really know which way you're going, you know. Also, you don't have to put a lot of time and effort into it. So with the wire buck, you know, spend a little bit of time on it, and once you transfer it to paper, it almost does itself. Like it almost guides you on its own. You know what I mean? A lot of times also because it's kind of like a little harder to bend and do all that. You know what I mean? Sometimes we'll start doing it with like just like a little aluminum rod like that, and that kind of gives you like your basic shape, and that way if you like it, you can bring it back, you can dump it. You don't really have to sit there and spend too much time with it. Once I find the shape that it is that we like, a lot of times I just write it right on the table, and I know that this is going to be the line that we decided, right? So now we like this part, we like this profile. Essentially, when you're looking at a gas tank from this side, the second step is to look at from the top, you know, and you got to look at it as, and since this is going to be your main line, this is where you're getting the most shape, especially when you're going to transfer over to steel. So since this is your main shape, this pretty much is going to dictate the next one, which is this way. And the funny part about that is somehow it works out to where that exact line, it's almost as if you're fanning it out, you know? So let me explain something like that. For example, you got this is your original shape. So for me to find my top shape, you kind of try to get the same shape in the front, and you're kind of fanning it out a little bit, you know? And that usually kind of helps, especially when you're going to transfer it over to steel. Like you could do whatever you want. In the end, you can get all crazy with the tank and everything, and you could probably even get a nice pepper pattern out of it as well. But just because you get it on paper doesn't mean you're going to get it on steel. You know, it's just not going to happen, or on your metal, whatever you're doing, aluminum, whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? So you kind of got to follow just certain little rules specifically when it comes to that. And I think that's like the best way to think about it. It's like, and that's actually going to transfer to the rest of the shape of the tank as well. Like I said, it's almost like you're fanning that. So it doesn't need to be exact. You don't need to follow this exact line, and you can change it a little bit. But essentially, since this is going to be where you're going to be doing the most shrinking, you know what I mean? And that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to be shrink, you know what I mean? Since this is going to be your main part of it, so then you just got to look at it like that. You take the place that you're going to do, and you just kind of fan it out. And that automatically right there gives you the profile from the top, if you can see that. You know what I mean? So now you got both. Now you got the side, and now you got the top. From here, every single line from here on out, every point of contact from here out is going to pretty much want to do itself. You know what I mean? Like you don't really have much of a choice to connect this to that if you're still following this shape, because technically it's still fanning out. You know what I mean? So you always got to remember that. You always got to try to stick with that situation. Now I'm going to do a little spark here, and I mean, safety first, right? So just everybody close your eyes and stuff like that. So I could just do a quick little, you know, just go like that and you'll be fine. I hear if you go like that, it doesn't hurt, right? So just go, and just you'll be fine, you know. I'm not going to even yell eyes, you know. There we go, good enough, right? So then normally, like I said, we got it like that. Normally I'll like, you know, maybe sometimes we'll do like a little stand or something, just especially if you're not really too sure about it or what have you, you know what I mean? Just to kind of keep that. But once again, like I said, we have our original shape this way. Now we grab this one and we're gonna fan it out. You know what I mean? And working with this wire is a pain in the ass. It really is, you know what I mean? Especially because you kind of want something thick you could tack on. You don't want something that can move too much. So like I said, that's why a lot of times we'll use the aluminum rod just so we can kind of manipulate it a little bit more. Once we have that final shape that I want, then from there, I'll copy it to the table, and then from the table, then I'll copy it from here. I don't want to move anything around on that. A lot of times it ends up being a pain in the ass too. All right, so same thing. So the next step from that as well, from the fanning, try to keep this, I specifically always try to keep it in halves. It always ends up being a little easier in the end, you know what I mean, when you swap it out and you do it in halves. So from here, the next one that goes here, like I was talking about fanning, where I will apply that is I'll just find roughly the half on this end and the half of the back end like that. You know what I mean? Obviously, it don't have to be exact, but you kind of want to keep it in halves. That's going to just kind of lead everything, because the next one that I do after that, I'll have this side, I'll have this side, and then same thing when you're coming across, and you have that and you have that. You know what I mean? I also find that the more wire that I do ends up kind of transferring a little bit better to paper, you know, and it kind of just flows a little better as long as you stick with that one kind of simple shape, but that you know that that's going to take the most shape of the whole entire tank. You know what I mean? So let's try that one more time with the eyes. You know what I mean? Maybe I could just do like a or something, and that's when you got to close your eyes on that or something. Come up with like a code word. You know, just yeah. Yeah, let's do that. You don't want to miss. There we go. Shane, I'm sorry, I'm gonna tack up your table everywhere, man. You're gonna have a good time cleaning this up, I tell you that. It was. It's on discount now, y'all. What are you at? Like, this burnt up table over here is for sale. Anyways, you see, half that way. Now, once again, I mean, I really kind of want to finish this side up, and even if I just do this half, because I really want to show you guys how to do it like on paper, kind of like what he was saying earlier today. When you're taking your paper template, that paper is a map. Like it's a guaranteed map, and the funny part about it is that if you spend time on that paper, like if you actually spend your time doing it, once you're actually transferred to metal, man, it's kind of hard to mess it up. So you just gotta kind of keep that in mind. A lot of times, man, we'll sit there and I'm just like sitting there messing around with this thing and making sure that all the lines are even and you know what I mean, just to make like this freaking wire buck that in the end we're just gonna hang up on top of the shop and say we did that at one point in time. But the reason it takes so long is because that will give you the paper. And when we do the classes ourselves, man, that paper part is like usually like everybody's kryptonite, you know what I mean? Because it's just like so frustrating. You just want to like, ugh. But once you get it, and once you kind of get those quick little vibes, that kind of quick little rules, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory after that. Now, I'm gonna just kind of try to jump off of that because I know we're kind of short on time. And if y'all have any questions on it later on tomorrow, whatever, hit me up and I'll kind of follow along on that. But the example right here, I mean, I would probably put another 2 here myself, right? But let's just say that we're already there. The good thing about that, what's going to end up happening is, once again, continuing the shape that we're continuing. The first one that we talked about, that one, that comes out of that one. So once again, you're going to try to copy that one as well. And once again, playing that game of halves that I was talking about. So essentially, now I want to cut this tank in half this way. You know what I mean? That's what I'm looking for next. I think that ends up adding just a little bit more uniform to it, and it makes it easier in your head to really kind of visualize what needs to happen throughout the metal. You know what I mean? So kind of something like that, you know. And even though you might not want to originally change your shape, I mean, you don't really have much of a choice from there, because you got this already telling you what this wants. And especially if I have another one coming in through here, it's telling you what it needs. You know what I mean? You try to fight that, you're going to be fighting it on paper, and you're going to be fighting it on steel. I mean, that's just, or on the metal, whatever it is that you're doing. And it's going to fight you the whole way through. So there's no reason to do that. You just got to follow that. You know what I mean? You know this is what it wants automatically because you picked that originally. You know, so if this original shape, if this profile takes you 2 days to find, then that is your design. That is what you're going to kind of stick with. That's kind of what you're stuck with at that point in time, unless you're ready to swap it any other way. You know what I mean? And like I said, you can get some crazy shapes and you can do all sorts of different stuff, but I think that this is usually you follow those kind of like basic rules, and it's usually the best way to go. At least you'll get yourself in less trouble, and you'll have to like chuck less tanks off the back, or just, you know, just yell at people, whatever it is your form of anger. But anyways, so we go from here, and as you can tell, I mean, like I said, it's just kind of telling me right there what it is that I want. Can you guys see? Like it's just telling me this shape technically is this shape. You can fuck with it a little bit for sure. You can open it up a little bit. You can narrow it a little bit. You might have to narrow it a little bit, but for the most part, that is going to be the shape that it wants. Like that is what is going to be the easiest. You know, you got to kind of extend it out. That's what's going to happen. You know what I mean? This is, and once again, you cut it in halves. So let's see what we got here. I try to move ahead here, but so I'll just kind of snip it from here. And then, and the same thing here on the bottom, right? So that's what I was kind of talking about. Here's where the other one comes in hand, because like I said, if I had more wire coming from these ends, I don't really have much choice. Like this is automatically going to lead me where I need to be. You know, so just use your imagination for a second or two, so we can move forward to the paper plate. And like I said, if y'all have questions later on, like let me know. But so now we're kind of following this imaginary line. You know, you can kind of see it's kind of tapering over that way. So, you know, you can kind of see what needs to happen. And being the bottom of your tank, like a lot of people like to go a little bit more on the flat side kind of thing like that, you know. So it usually works out pretty nicely. So kind of something like that. And I mean, this is always kind of like it does get a little bit frustrating. And if you kind of try to rush this process, man, you're gonna feel it. I'm telling you, it's happened to us plenty of times where I think something's gonna work, and it just, you know, it ends up being kind of garbage, kind of like what I'm doing right now. Oh, did I say it out loud? My bad. Anywho, let me see. All right, let's do a real quick thing. Let's do that. And like I said, once again, like you're always kind of aiming for halves. You know what I mean? Try to get it right in the middle there for the most part. Right. There we go. Boom. And then same thing on this side. Now, another important thing is that you kind of do need to kind of keep in mind, especially like once you do a few of these, like, you know, you can kind of see what the metal's not going to do. Like I said, we're kind of rushing it right now, so I'm pretty sure that that's going to be a pretty hard specific shape without me bringing this in more, right? So I probably, like I said, since I needed the other one on this side, that probably would have told me to kind of come in a little bit more. But I mean, it's one of those things that you're going to just mess up over and over again until you get it right. And it'll only take a few times for you to do this where you'd be like, oh, all right, I understand now what needs to happen. You know what I mean? Oh, thanks, man. All right, so kind of same thing coming down here. Another thing also when you're doing your wireframe, that's really, really important, is that you don't want to force it either. Because like right there, just because you can do it on wire, doesn't mean that that's where it wants to go. You know what I mean? So you kind of got to take your time. Like just because I put a tack here, doesn't mean that's going to work. You want to take your time to get that radius the right way, to just make it flow naturally in there. A lot of times, like you'll mess something up and you'll come back and you'll be like, oh man, I screwed that up. And then you snap one side to try to fix it and the whole thing will just be like, you know what I mean? So you kind of want to make it natural, you know what I mean? Especially if you got like all the time in the world and not 40-something people staring at you, you know what I mean? That usually kind of works out pretty good. Let me see here. All right, let's try that one more time. And I'm gonna do one more after this just so I can get that corner there. Ready? There we go. Hey man, I haven't hit the table not once, by the way. That's pretty badass right there. I'm sorry. All right, so. All right, so from there, like I said, I would normally go out everywhere, but I think the one that would be important, especially so I can show you guys this paper pattern. Once again, so like I was saying, halves, right? So now picture we did this half, we did that half, so now we're gonna go this way, right? So I'm gonna do half here, and I would do a half here. And if I feel like this tank is too long, or especially if like a gap is too long, that will end up bringing problems when you're doing your paper pattern. So if you wanna throw another one in there, once again, you just play that game of halves and just kind of keep bringing them in until you kind of feel like, you see what I mean? Once you start laying down the paper, you don't have to worry about that paper dipping in because that's what it's going to want to do. You know what I mean? So I'll end up kind of doing the same thing with this and just kind of finding it. You just kind of find half. And once again, like I said, like it kind of wants to tell you where it goes. You know what I mean? Like it just really does. Like there's not really much room to screw it up, especially when you have more wires coming on there. So you find that half, you try to, you know, kind of, and if you do a good job and take your time kind of getting all the radiuses right, this new one should technically match with this one right here. But since you're going kind of back in, it'll just be a little bit shorter. You can see the line, you can see the groove, just where it starts flowing on its own. You know, and that'll be with any angle that you look at it. You know what I mean? If you're doing it right, right? So that's kind of what you're aiming for on that. Let me see. Kind of wanted to get this side before anything else. And you know, man, one thing that we have been always lucky about is that we've just been eyeballing all the time, and people like it for whatever reason. So that's fantastic. You know, and I was like, all right, let's do it. So that's going to be kind of like that. And then once again, I'll just kind of bring this one in as well. And you'll be surprised, man, your fingers will start hurting by the time you're done with one of these things. You're like, fuck, what did I do to myself? But it is what it is. All right. Let me just bring this in. And like I said, I would have loved to just finish this whole thing with y'all. But I think that once you see the paper pattern, I think that's more important than this. I think it really is. I think just getting that paper pattern right will set you off better, you know. Let me see here. Yeah, that's close enough. Bring that in. All right, let's get it done. Where's my Packer guy? Come on, Packer. Thank you, thank you. All right, cool. So same thing over here. I'll bring it in a little bit. And we'll Packer it. Once again, I'm forcing it here, man, but you're not supposed to. You shouldn't do it. You should not be forcing it. But you know how that goes. All right. There you go. Good enough. Okay. So let's get that back going. Okay. So after that, let's just say that all this is nice and done and pretty, and like, you know, you're kind of happy with it. You're like, man, it's coming out nice. You follow the rules, right? You follow the contour, everything. You're feeling pretty good about it. I'm going to transfer it over to paper. Usually what ends up happening is, first of all, I just kind of give me like a whole kind of area, you know what I mean? Just make sure that it kind of covers everything, because you got to remember you're bringing everything back up. All right. Let's try that. All right. So once I got my paper like this, usually what I end up doing is I end up finding the flattest spot that I can find on the tank, right, or on the frame, right? So I try to find, like, you know, one of the flattest spots, and then I always put myself a little X right here. In fact, I do usually 2 of them. I kind of try to follow this frame here just to keep myself honest, because it's a lot easier once you're sitting there trying to do your paper for you to just be like, oh, it's working better on this side, and then swap it out on the other side, and you're just kind of chasing it around. So I kind of give myself a couple of marks right there. That way I know that no matter what, I'm going to come back to that. That's where I need to be, you know. Everything else can happen. This is my center right there. You know, that's an important one right there. If you don't do that, it'll get you. You know, a lot of times we've also done it like this, man. Like, we've done pretty much a whole tank with nothing but aluminum and a little bit of tape. You know, you sit there and you do it all, and then you tape. Instead of welding, you're sitting there taping all these things, and essentially you're just kind of trying to get the contour, the shapes of it. That way, by the time you're feeling kind of good about it, then you can transfer it over to this. And after that, man, you're just following lines on your paper. I usually scribble on the table myself. I never just copy wire to wire, because something always goes wrong that way. So I'll just go back, and I could have done it on this paper, but since I want this table to be for sale, we'll do it on the table. You know what I mean? I'll just follow that Sharpie line over and over again, you know what I mean? And as long as you got that Sharpie line, you bend your stuff to that, and you could pretty much break down the whole gas tank with this aluminum, and then swap it over to this, tack it all together, and then you get to the paper. You know what I mean? But that's kind of like a good way to think about it a lot of times that way. And then do this up. When I put a little tape, we're gonna go, you know what I mean? Change it up a little bit. So when I tape it right in the center, you know what I mean? Try to get that going. And I mean, you kind of want to get rid of a lot of this paper originally, you know what I mean? You just kind of try to, because it's going to get in the way. But a lot of times when you got a lot of shape on it, you don't see it coming, right? So next thing you know, you cut that paper, it's like, oh shit, like I cut too much or whatever, you know what I mean? Plus normally, like, at my shop where I'm like well prepared, like I have some scissors or something like that, you know what I mean? But I guess we don't get no love around here for that, so what are you gonna do, you know? We gotta work with what we got. All right, so here's the important part right here that I always thought that was kind of key. Let's see. Shit. All right. So once it's like that, man, I flip it up. Oh man, you're like an angel. Hey man, what are you doing? Overcompensating or something over here. Look at this thing. Yeah, this things are bad. Let's just say that I'll put them in my back pocket, see what happens later. All right, man, so we flip it over. And then, like I said, just picture with the wires and everything, but this will work a little bit, right? So this, automatically this wants to do what is, it's gonna tell you what to do. So usually what I end up picking out the place where it's gonna be the most shape, which was the shape that we were using to begin with, right? So you just kind of let that paper, and this is what's important because you really can't fight it. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna just allow you to, it's gonna just make you do what it wants to do, right? So knowing that most of my shape, as you can see, most of my shape is gonna be here. There's also gonna be a lot of shape in the back. You know what I mean? There'll be kind of a little shape coming up right here, but you can see that like the paper already wants to kind of do that. You know what I mean? Same thing on the bottom. Like it's just gonna, the paper wants to do that. Where it's gonna kind of fight you a little bit, it's gonna be where there's more, where the shrinking needs to happen. You know what I mean? So you just kind of follow that pattern, and it literally just tells you what it wants to do. Like I said, even as I'm doing it right now, and I could, like I said, I could have probably used another one over here, but even as you're doing that, like it really is just telling you, like it's explaining to you right there, this is what I want. You know what I mean? That's what I want right there. I need a fold right here. So once I do that, you gotta kind of keep it as, okay, the best way I could do it is like this. Imagine that this is a ray of sunshine, right? And here's my flat part right here. So you try to look for the flattest part on your pattern, right? This is the flat one right here. So from here on out, this right here is considered no man's land, right? Like you are not to touch this place, to touch this area right here with any other machine, with nothing. So any shrinking that you're gonna do is gonna be coming from the outside in, right? From the outside in. But this is where you stop. This is your stop line right here. You know what I mean? As soon as you start messing more with this, then you're no longer doing the shape that you're putting on there. Now, if you do want to put more shape on here, so then maybe your flat part comes in a little bit more, and a little bit more, and your flat part starts getting smaller. You know what I mean? You got to remember when you're doing that. For example, when you're doing a bowl, if you ever try doing like on a class, what we do bowls, and we'll have the students do a whole day of nothing but bowls, nothing but bowls, nothing but bowls. But if you think about it, a bowl could have, you know, a nice big flat part on it, or it could be like the center could be that big, or you can make it down to like try to make a perfect ball out of it. You know what I mean? That is your contact point. That's your no man's land. Same thing with this right here. Like you don't touch that. So when you come back around and you put your thing like that, you put back. See how that keeps you honest? So then you put your tape right there, and you put your tape down here. You got to think about it as a ray of sunshine, man. So you want the lines to be sticking straight. You don't want your lines to be like that. You don't want to come in all crazy like that. You want to keep them straight to where they're going to be popping out to where that curve wants to go. Like once again, the paper is telling you everything, and this is going to be your pass, right? This is essentially going to be what you're going to be hitting on the machine once you put it on your metal or on your material, whatever it is going to be. So once again, when I come in here like that, and I kind of bring it down like that, and the paper's telling me, once I'm bringing it down, the paper's telling me where it wants to fold. So when I come back around, and it'll tell you, like, it's actually kind of crazy. When you come back around, now you know that it wants to fold right here at the top. So usually, what I always like to do is I like to keep it maybe about a 1/4 inch wide, right? So I'll do my little fold, and I'm talking about a 1/4. And I want to keep them all even, and I want to keep them all in the same direction. So I'll keep about a 1/4 like that. Right? Bring it in a 1/4 like that, and just kind of crease it to your no man's land, right? Just kind of like that. And if you flip it over and you squeeze it down, like it automatically wants to do that as well. Like you can see where it wants to be, and it kind of gives you that. And I want to stop at no man's land, so it kind of gives you that little divot at the end. You know what I mean? Like you'll see right now what I'm talking about. Kind of like that, you know. kind of like that. And if you gotta mess around with this, you gotta remember this right here, the paper right here, this is the most important thing. Like, more important than that. You know what I mean? This is where you wanna be at. This is where to make or break you, pretty much, you know? Because you won't notice this is wrong until you're trying to do it, you know? So that's one fold right there. So now, you come back around, and I know it's tedious, and we're gonna keep doing this over and over again. To summarize, as you can see, once I got that, and like I said, this is the most with a shape. So then, most likely, once you start folding it again, and you got this shape down here, like it's gonna want more. Like it's obviously gonna want more. So then you kind of understand what I was talking about, like the ray of sunshine kind of thing. You know what I mean? So the next fold, like I said, I always like to keep them on one direction, just to keep me kind of like organized with it, and then I would just try to evenly. But once again, you kind of got to follow the whole halves thing. You know what I mean? So I know there's gonna want more than two folds in here. So me knowing that, I'll probably just try to find the other spot, try to bring it out from this side, try to keep it straight, and same thing. We'll just kind of do this line, and once it gives me that, then it starts kind of eating more at it like that, and you start getting closer and closer. And if I know it needs more, then I'll half that again, and just kind of until it ends up being kind of like that bend, right? Like it just ends up wrapping around itself. And it'll do it on its own, because technically it's exactly what you're doing with the steel. Then after that, I'll kind of leave that alone, and then we'll move over to the next shape and kind of try to spread it around a little bit. And let's just say that we did it all around. And like I said, we'll go over it again if y'all have any questions for sure. But the trick to it after that is, once you're coming in, so let's just say that we have our whole paper, and it's got our whole folds right in here and everything. So this is gonna tell us where it is that we need to shrink, right? Knowing that this is no man's land right here, we know that already. And let's just say that this is our total tank. Like we did it all, patterns done, cut it with a razor blade all the way around, and that is the perfect shape right there, and we're where we need to be. This is gonna be our map to the stars right here, man. This is the way you do that, right? So now it's telling you what it is that you gotta do. So technically, you're moving the same amount of material when you're coming in from here, because this is from the outside, you're moving more than from the inside. You know what I mean? So technically what you want to do is you kind of have to go by steps on it. So I would first, this is my piece. I would come in and I'd hit it with the thumbnail, right? You just come in with the thumbnail all the way down. That's one pass, right? But since there's a lot more material, picture like there's like rings of it, right? So then there's a lot more material from here to here than, there's a lot more material from here to here than from here to here and from here to there. So you might have to do 3 passes or what have you. But what I do is you come in all the way in, and that's your one, all the way in. But now, when you come in, for every one, you probably have to do, especially if it's a lot of shape, for every one pass that you do on the inside to your no man's land, you might have to do 2 passes on the second ring and 4 passes on the next one. Like that's just what's gonna happen, because look at all the material that you have to move on this end. You know what I mean? You have to bring that in. So you go from here, 1 pass, and then after that, my next ring, I would probably come in and I'll do 2 passes. And then from here, I would do 3 passes on this side. And obviously, I'm not trying to go down the same one. You're kind of just trying to spread it around, but you got to keep that in mind. So when we do that, like I said, we'll do our classes and we'll do that bowl. That's kind of easy because you're starting off with a circle, and you know that you're trying to move everything evenly to make a bowl. But when you've got this funky shape over here, you know, it's not even. It's not the same thing. You're gonna have a lot more shrinking on this side than you have a lot more shrinking on this side. You need to keep track of that. But once you kind of get that group, especially that first pass, do 1, and then the second pass you do 1, 2, and then the third pass you do 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean? You'll start seeing it move right away. Like and funny thing about that is, as long as you follow your lines, I mean, I would literally just put this. Once I have my piece of steel and I have it all cut to shape and everything, I'll put this right on it like that, man, and I'll mark it like that, and then I'll just follow the line, and I'll mark it and I'll draw all these lines on my piece. That way, when I'm sitting there and I'm just hitting it right through the hammer, it's just following what it's asking you to do. Like it's not really. A lot of the guys will even put the rings around it, just so you know. I mean, it takes a little bit of, like, you know, just you've done it a few times and you kind of understand where those rings need to go, but if you have a lot of shape in something, then you're gonna have to do probably 2 passes to here, 4 passes here. Might even have to go 8 passes out here, but it'll start happening. Another thing that's really cool about it is like he was showing over there, when you're sitting there with a buck, you got no blind, nothing. But this one, I mean, literally, once this is my piece, I just go right to this piece and I could see right through it. You know what I mean? So I know exactly what needs to happen from here on out. You can tell because you're looking at it. You know what I mean? Go this way, you go that way, but you could see what needs to happen, and then you just go back and just knock it out. You know what I mean? Like I said, I wish I had more time to show you guys, but I hope I did all right kind of thing. What do you think? We did all right? You guys kind of got it? Rock and roll.